Welcome to the podcast series Unshakable Strength Empowering Black Women, sponsored by the Empower Project. The Empower Project is a partnership between Howard University and Health HIV, sponsored by the PACE grant from Gilead Sciences. The Girlfriends podcast is dedicated to addressing the unshakable strength shown and the unique health challenges faced by Black women and girls, particularly in the context of HIV prevention. We will explore important topics such as sexual health, mental well-being, access to healthcare, and strategies for HIV prevention tailored to the needs of Black women and girls. We invite you to listen to our other episodes that explore important topics like love after diagnosis, redefining relationships with HIV, and so many more that are already available for you. Today's episode, Beyond the Role, Caregiving, Self-Care, and HIV Prevention, is for Black women who are often the backbone of care for their families and communities, but who cares for them? This episode explores the realities of caregiving, from navigating health systems to balancing emotional and generational responsibilities. Through powerful stories, we highlight the importance of self-preservation, sexual health, routine testing, and tools like PrEP, because HIV prevention is part of caring for yourself while caring for others. Today, I have the honor of introducing two guests, Ms. Taylor Owens and Ms. Shayla Perla. Taylor Owens is a passionate advocate for empowering communities and organizations in the health sector. With years of experience in program development, training, and strategic planning, Taylor has been a driving force behind initiatives that address HIV/AIDS and Black women's health. She currently serves as the Capacity Building Coordinator at Health HIV in Washington, D.C., and she is also an MPH candidate at Johns Hopkins University. Shayla Perla is a library page, certified community health worker, chef, and storyteller based in Durham, North Carolina. In her daily work at the public library, she supports Black families through community-centered care, access to information, and healing spaces. With a background in health education and food justice, Shayla brings a culturally grounded approach to caregiving, both self-advocacy and rest. Her work is rooted in the belief that rest is care, nourishment is resistance, and connection is a vital form of healing. Good afternoon, Taylor and Shayla. Thank you both so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in, ladies, to this important topic. And so I'm going to start with a question. And the question really is for both of you. So whoever feels comfortable, feel free to answer first. But caregiving can take a toll, not just on your body, but on your whole sense of self. So how did caring for your mom affect the way that you saw yourself as a daughter, a mother, and even as a woman?
I can go first just so that I won't be nervous for the rest of the episode. But so just a little bit of context. I am the oldest of two. I'm the only girl. I have a younger brother. We are 2 years apart. And right after he graduated from his program in July of 24, my mom got really sick, like on his graduation day. She got extremely sick and he called us in a panic and he was like, she is having uncontrollable bowel movements. I don't know what to do. Like we were supposed to, be going to our graduation. What do I do? And we told him like, okay, well, we can't get to you as fast as we want. So just, call the ambulance. And from then until the day that she passed, she was in, different facilities, being transferred home and different things like that. So just like going back to the question and just, that was just for a little bit of context, but how did it affect me? Just as the oldest, you already feel like you're the second parent when your parent has to, take on the responsibilities. So her being sick and seeing that she could not be there for my brother, it was like, okay, not only do I have to step up for her because I'm in the field and I have the knowledge, but I also have to realize like I'm still human, I'm still her daughter, but now I have to step in for him as well because he can't do everything for himself. So my views on myself changed just a tad, but I had to also acknowledge the fact that it wasn't about me. It was about making sure that everything didn't go haywire while we were going through the motions and taking it moment by moment with my mother. So yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. You said some powerful words. It wasn't about me. It was about that moment. And
Hmm.
that's I'm sure somebody listening, those words are resonating. So, how about you, Miss Shayla? How did caring for your mom affect the way you saw yourself as a daughter, a mother, and even as a woman?
Now that answer really resonated with me as well, Taylor. So when it comes to me, I am actually an only child. And my mother was out in and out of my life for pretty much since I was 2 until 18. And when I turned 18, we reconnected and we embarked on a mother-daughter relationship. Now I knew that she was diagnosed when she was 25. I was 9 at the time when this happened. So I have always been aware that she was living with HIV. I just did not understand the full context. And so after I had my son, that's when I realized, well, this is really hard. It's hard to juggle, when you're going through um, not feeling well and living with a chronic illness. On top of that is another beast. So I really leaned in because I wanted to support her because she decided that she wanted to take control of her health, and I was so proud of her. I knew she needed someone in her corner, and so stepping in that role felt like a no-brainer. Um, I became an advocate of her appointments and keeping track of medications, but also just stepping up as a daughter and making sure that she felt loved, supported, and rooted in her life so that she could see beyond her diagnosis. Um, it really felt like a role reversal. um, just there was a lot of times where I was like her cheerleader in her corner, but I felt like it was important because my son was watching, and I wanted him to see that caring is love, it's not obligation. And as a woman, I had to learn like it was okay to be strong, but also be soft in that as well. And I wanted that to rub off on her and her journey.
Wow, that's 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 a lot, but that's strong. Wanting
Yeah.
to rub off on her while you're caring for her. That's powerful stuff. So Shayla, let me ask you a follow up question, and then I'll go to you, Taylor. Shayla, were there moments when you realized that you were running on empty? And if there were those moments, how did you even recognize them? And what did you do about them? What did you ultimately have to do about those moments?
as a as a black woman that wears many hats, I feel like that is a that's a lot, right? Like we always feel like, oh my gosh, we're running this way, we're running that. There were times where I felt myself zapping over little things or feeling numb during the situation. And also, this was a journey for me to really start to learn more about HIV as a whole, and it's a lot. And so when my body was telling me that I was on empty, when I was like, okay, I need time to pause, I would do small things like sit outside and have a cup of coffee, let the sun shine on me. And one of the big things is saying yes when someone offered to help me. Um, I don't have to try to juggle everything. I had to unlearn the idea that everything that I did myself was strength, and that resting wasn't letting anyone down. And so once I learned that, then I was able to be like, you know what, girl, today we going to the beach and we can just sit here, or um, just having a conversation. One of the things that I really loved about my mother was that she was a very open individual. And so if I came to her and was like, man, this is really tough, like she always had an open ear. And I think having open communication is helpful as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Taylor, I saw a lot of nodding. Talk to me about your running on empty moments. Talk to me.
I agree with Shayla. And it's crazy because sometimes when you're like the strong person or you're the person that everybody depends on, you don't realize you're running on empty. Other people have to tell you because of how you can, unconsciously treat them or respond or your lack thereof. And that was me. Like I was working, I was applying for school. Like we had so much happening prior to her getting extremely sick that when it happened, it was kind of like, now what do we do? Because life is going to keep moving. Like there was so much happening behind the scenes. Everybody had their own different lives. I often tell my little brother, like, that's your life. I'm a character in it, but it's the same thing the other way around. Like, this is my life. I can't just, stop and do those things. I have to make time. I have to learn how to balance both. So when I was running on empty, I didn't realize it. I just knew, like, okay, I'm in go mode. I got to keep going. It's Monday, but Tuesday is going to be here before I know it. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, but it's gonna be 7 o'clock at night before I know it, and I still have to get stuff done in between that, in those times. And um, I think the signs came like I love to eat, I love to sleep. When I noticed that had changed, I was like, we gotta get everything back in track. Taylor needs her nap.
Mhm.
Like I didn't hear my grandmother saying like, "Girl, you ain't sleep yet." I'm not sleep yet because I'm on the phone with her while I'm in a meeting, while I'm doing work. People are coming in and out of the house. Like I once my life changed, I was like, we need to, tap in. Where can we get some help? I need some help, But again, you have to learn how to balance it. And I also had to step outside of the fact that I could not be selfish. Like again, it was not about me. Like this is a life or death situation in the sense of, okay, we need to start having these, like important conversations. So once I started to do that and identify the problems and um actually like just get, I want to say, like, for lack of a better word, just get organized with everything, like be able to grab a hold of it. Um that was probably like how I was able to, balance myself and level myself out so that I wasn't running on empty. And even when I was running on empty, I could communicate that and not be,
Mhm.
a disdain in somebody else's mouth or in their view. But
No, that's great, and it's a very different approach than what Shayla was sharing, but it takes you to that same place. You got to
mhm,
care for yourself, and so you actually, Shayla, I'm gonna bounce right back to you because you actually bring me to my next question. Community support can be the difference between burnout and balance. So, who or what made you feel less alone in your caregiving journey, and what would that teach us? Those of us who perhaps are not in that journey just yet, what would it teach us about building true care circles for Black women?
Yes. Um, I love this question because it's very near and dear to my heart. So one of the things that we did was we created small rituals, my son and I, and my mom. So we would do things like get together and just, like I said, go like maybe go to the beach or just take a drive and have like a meeting together, like a coffee talk. And those became our ways of getting together and just really regrounding. Again, this also taught him because he was fairly young. He's about to be 12 now, but he was fairly young, but it taught him how to be at, in the circle of community and being able to communicate your feelings. Also, we participated in um, activities that the clinic my mom attended for her care, and they had a coffee talk session as well. And we would go there every Tuesday and just be in fellowship with people. I mean, we would do everything from paint to take field trips to the bowling alley, and it just really made you feel like you're not alone. And they welcomed me and my son with open arms as well as a support system. And I thought that was truly unique because a lot of the times that care is for the patient. But in this way, it was like, no, 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 come into the fold. Come in with us and fellowship with us and support. And so they really got to see like my son grow up. They got to see the changes. Um, family and friends showed up in ways and it made a huge difference. What I learned is that real care circles are built on consistency. Um, we need spaces as Black women when we don't always have to be the strong ones, where we are cared for without explaining why, and we can just go. And I have taken that along my journey and incorporated that into even just working at the library or cooking a meal for someone. I want those moments to be for people. And so just showing up, being consistent is super important for community support.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shayla, I mean, Taylor, give us some wisdom on that. Come on now.
um, full disclosure, I was tired of my circle. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be fully transparent.
Talk
Because
to us. Give me more.
there's so many of us. Like
Yeah.
our family is so complex, surrounding my mother that is crazy. So
Mhm.
we have my grandmother who's married to my grandfather, but then he's not my mom's biological father. So we had my biological grandfather with his partner. And like there were two, and then there's like me, my brother. My mom has siblings. She has cousins. She has like really good girlfriends. And then we also had everybody in the healthcare field who was pitching in. So it was like I was on the phone all day and I was stressed. So like I knew like I knew that we needed people there to be her advocate when we could not be. So I was very grateful that we all stayed in contact, but it became overwhelming because it seemed like we weren't having life conversations about different things that were happening. It always was about my mom. So it was kind of like it's in my
Mhm.
mind all
Mhm.
day long. Like there are no breaks, in between. It's like, okay, people at my work family, I love all of you. They were asking, like, is there anything that we can do? Do you need any paperwork? Do you need any resources? And then I was living with my grandparents at the time. My uncle also lived there. So it was like, okay, now I'm having three conversations with three different people. You have my grandmother who's at Johns Hopkins, grandfather's in construction. My uncle is also working with special needs children. So it's like we all are on different spectrums of
Mhm.
under knowing what HIV is. So it was kind of like it was overwhelming. I felt like the world was just sitting on my shoulders, but the world was my mom, and then everybody is like rushing towards me to
Mhm.
just know. So the support was amazing because yeah, it can't just be me as the oldest. Like, and I have the education behind it, so like I'm panicking, but I'm also trying to be her advocate and be calm. But then I have all these other people around me wanting to know and then also being concerned. But people often I often hear people say that Black women are the most disrespected, but they also don't have the biggest advocates. So I felt like, okay, because this isn't about me and I can't be selfish, I have to be her advocate. I had to
Mhm.
stay at the front. Like if they don't see her, they gotta see me. If they don't see me, they need to see my grandmother. Like it had to go in a specific order for me in order for me to be able to, even appreciate the fact that we had so much help. Because when I would go see her, I would see people by themselves. And it would make my heart hurt, like you don't like my mom has all these people and you don't have anybody. Can I be there for you too? And it's like, can you really? Because you're already burnt out with your mom. So you can't, be somebody else's help as well. But that doesn't mean that you can't, put those resources out there or share that love. Just be grateful for your community. So, but yeah, Taylor was tired of those people. I'm not gonna lie. I had my phone on do not disturb. Like you got to call twice to get to me. You have to click the notify when the text needs to come through. Like I was not playing. I
That's a
was not
form
And
of
playing.
and
self care,
I
though.
love that you share that because you're yes, yes, and you're both sharing such unique perspectives on a very similar journey that went in a completely different direction. And I think there's going to be people listening and watching this podcast who are going to say that could be me. That sounds like my story. And so I want to get even more personal because caregiving often leaves very little room for personal health. And I think you've both alluded to that. So during this caregiving journey, how did you navigate your own needs, like getting tested, accessing your own medical care? Like, how did you navigate being able to still care for yourself, but also care for the person you were loving and trying to be there for and be everything to?
I can go because mine is like small. Um, because my mom, she made sure that the things that she did not have, or she felt like she that could have been better in her childhood, that we didn't, my brother and I didn't have to go through. So when she got sick, there were like minor instances where I noticed like, okay, well, she has this in her insurance, but I don't have that. So let, now that I'm an adult, instead of relying on her, let me go do that. So it was more of noticing the disconnect within the systems.
Mhm.
And then realizing, okay, since they're not going to do it now, it's my responsibility to make sure that these things are aligned, so that in the event that this happens again, even if it's me, if it's my brother, if it's a significant other, a friend, I know what to do. Like, things are already in place, or at least I know where to go. So that was how I showed up for myself, because being the oldest child and the oldest grandchild, it was kind of like I had not necessarily people to fall back on, but if I didn't know, I had people I could go to ask. But what if those people aren't there? Like, my mom isn't here anymore, so that person that I had, I could call and be like, "Girl, how do you do this? Can you just do it for me?" I can't. I don't have that anymore. Like, my grandparents are older. Times are changing. We have to adapt to the time. So it was just noticing, okay, Taylor, you need to do this, 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 and don't say you're gonna do it. Actually, go do it. Like, so that was how I started showing up for myself.
All right. How about you, Miss Shayla?
I love that. Um, yeah, so start like becoming a caregiver for my mom really radicalized me and turned me into an advocate, and it made me stronger than I thought that I ever could be. And in a lot of ways, that changed me. I used to be extremely shy, did not like to speak in front of folk. I did not want to stand up for myself. And being put into this advocate role made me into like a warrior. Um, and so now I seek out ways to how can I do this in other avenues of my life, and how can I show it up? I'm always the front row when it comes to friends, families, and even strangers. When I'm like, oh well, no, 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 that's not going to work. Let's go over here and figure this out. So that was a huge thing. I also realized when I lost my mom in 2022 that you can't pour into an empty cup. And so now I am very intentional about asking for rest and asking for help, even when I feel uncomfortable. I slow down, I pay more attention to those moments, and that's what stayed with me the most because I try to model that for my son and show it for the 9-year-old child in myself and be like, you know what, this is what I would have wanted during this time. And this is how I show up for myself. This is how I can make sure that I don't burn out or I'm like getting a little snappy. My husband will check me and be like, yeah, why are you cleaning? Go sit down. Like I can see it. You're starting to rush. And, just going through things in life. We've been going through a hardship right now in our life. And I am so proud of myself for how calm I have been through this journey. Normally, I am all up in there, but it all goes back to becoming the caregiver for my mother. Like, it all becomes like when I became certified as a community health worker. It's amazing how those things intertwine with one another and made me into a stronger Black woman.
I love that. That's amazing. And Shayla, if I can, Amy, to when you said that you can't, when you made the comment about, pouring from an empty cup, yesterday I literally had a conversation with my cousins, because we just recently buried my aunt as well, right next to my mom. But in the conversation, she was like, "You're never supposed to pour from your cup. You're supposed to give from the overflow," and that literally ties back into
Mm,
the question of what do you do in those moments when you realize that you're empty? Because if my cup is half full and I'm pulling into other people, eventually there's going to be nothing left in my cup. So why?
that's
It made
right.
so much sense when she said that, and I was like, right, because if my cup is full and it's overflowing, you can get the overflow because I don't need it. My cup is full. But
Yes.
I wanted to put that out there. Yes, give from the
Thank you for
overflow
that.
because
Yes. Yes.
Listen, the wisdom that is coming out of you. It hits. My goodness. So, which is a perfect segue to my final question, and it really is for you both. So, because we need some of that overflow wisdom. So, as you reflect, what advice would you give to other Black women who are balancing caregiving with their own health and self care, especially when it comes to protecting themselves from stress, burnout, and HIV risk? What advice would you give?
Mm, mm, mm. That's beautiful.
I was told by someone that I do not know personally, like we just met, but they told me to give myself grace, um because you're taking it moment by moment, not day by day. Like you don't, like I'm good now, but 5 minutes from now I might not be, and it's you can't you can't try to control or grasp the things that are out of your control. You just have to let it happen. I'm not necessarily saying, go with the flow and let it blow you in every which way, and you don't seek the help and the guidance or get the support that you need, but understand that you are human and there are just some things that you just cannot change. You just have to carry them. If it's your cross to bear, if it ain't yours, leave it alone. If it's yours, you carry it, but you carry it with grace. Don't beat yourself up about it, especially if it fell in your lap, but just make sure that you communicate. You love on yourself. You find a minute or 30 seconds out of the day to just do something for you. But grace, my advice is grace. Have grace with yourself every single day.
I
Great
love that,
advice. Great
Taylor.
advice, Miss Shayla.
Love that. Mine's is similar. It's just like embrace the journey, embrace the ups and downs of the roller coaster. You are going to have days where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. It moves like grief, you know. When you're caregiving, you see that person in a vulnerable situation, and especially if it's someone that you leaned on to be strong or to be the adult in the situation, for lack of a better word, like that's your parent, that's my mother. Um, and so there were days where I would be like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm the daughter here. I need you to be the mom. Um, but I had to really learn how to embrace the grief in that as well, and take it as it goes. Because, as Taylor was saying, you are human. You're going to feel, you're going to not like things, but it's also going to bring out the strength in you in ways that you didn't think that you had. Um, I will say that watching my mom go through this journey inspired me to take way better care of myself. I did know about testing and all that good stuff before, but now I'm so diligent about it. And it really has shaped the way that I talk to children and teenagers now, and adolescents, because they go through. And so we have this thing called game night at the library, and we have candid conversations because these children are in middle school and some are in elementary school, and they have lots of questions around things. And not to get too technical into sex education, but just having the conversations and having a place to feel comfortable to say those things. Because as a child, sometimes asking those questions would be met with a deer in the headlight, like, oh my gosh, but when you show, like, I'm not going to back down for what you just said to me, I'm just going to answer that question. Absolutely, you should get tested. Absolutely, this is why. And I tend to see that people love your honesty when it comes to that more. And so I take better care of myself. I allow myself to feel, I allow myself to grieve. And then I get back up again and I keep it going.
I love that.
Love it. Get back up and keep it going. I love that. Taylor, Shayla, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your deeply personal reflections on caregiving, self care, and especially HIV prevention. To our listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of our podcast. We really hope you found the conversation uplifting, thought provoking, and even useful for your own journey. Be sure to join us for our upcoming episodes covering topics like exploring faith, sexuality, and empowerment for Black women, or intimate partner violence, HIV risk, and the path to empowerment, along with many more important conversations. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us reach more listeners. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful day.